And we're back and we're live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
And this is our brand new format, our new MMA Renegade podcast. How you doing, Elijah?
I'm doing, brother. I'm good, brother. I'm doing good. I can't complain. Another glorious Sunday. Sun is out. We finally got some good weather back in New York City again. So that's something to look forward to these next couple of days. But overall, I'm okay, man. Just finished some midterms. We're finally relaxing. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Like you said, nice day outside. UFC card was yesterday. I finally watched the Zack Snyder cut. A little bit of Marvel yesterday. Yesterday also with the Winter Soldier and the Falcon. So yeah. I'm doing good, man.
Good. I'm definitely calling you to talk about this after we're done here with this podcast. I know you had some few choice words for the original theatrical cut, so I definitely would love to hear what you talk about the Snyder cut or Justice League, of course, if any of you don't know.
I'll say it here. Just overall, we'll talk about details, stuff like that. I don't want to spoil anything, but overall, just thoughts. It is an okay to a good movie. It's pretty much the same as what the original Justice League was for me in terms of just like overall, just being a movie, good and okay. It's in that range. It's if you compare it to something somebody brought up to me before, it's like Age of Ultron. If you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League as Age of Ultron, you'll get what I'm saying.
I did not see it yet, but we argued this back and forth, and I told you, I said the Snyder cut is going to be better than the actual theatrical cut, and the reason why is because the Snyder cut just has so much more vision that's different from what Joss Whedon brought when he picked up when Zack Snyder left. I'm looking forward to seeing it this upcoming weekend since I have spring break. I forgot even college kids even do that. So, yeah, I'll be watching it this upcoming weekend with my family. I'll let you know. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I think Ben Affleck didn't get his total justice when he played Bruce Wayne, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll let you watch it and let the fans watch it and just get your thoughts on it. For me, without spoiling anything, it is an okay to a good movie. It's not a legacy. It's not the greatest superhero movie of all time. It's not on par with anything Marvel related. If anything, it's on par with Age of Ultron.
It's not a Marvel movie. It's not supposed to rival Marvel. It should have, but it didn't. It's a different direction in terms of superhero gaps. But overall, I was looking forward to it. I'm glad it came out. That's really and we never thought we'd see it too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we have it. We know what it was. We know the vision. You know the vision of what it was going for, and now we can move on and look to the future projects.
Yes, but coming off of last night, we had UFC Fight Night Brunson versus Holland taking place, I believe, in the UFC Apex Center. Correct?
Yes.
And last night's card had a lot of falling out due to some incidents, such as a fighter passing out twice while trying to make, being weighed. And the situation is that another co-main event fell out of place due to COVID-19. So unfortunately, the fight did have a few fallout fighters, but the fight card wasn't that bad overall. Let's get into our main event as we speak. We had Kevin Trailblazer Holland, who's an up and coming fighter in the middleweight division, 185, who's been able to beat and pull together an impressive string of impressive resume and defeating a lot of good people. The last person he fought was Jacare Souza, knocking him out while he was in the bottom position and Jacare was in the dominant position. And we have a perennial contender in Derek Brunson, a guy who's on a 3-fight win streak, I believe, before heading into this fight. His last fight was actually Edmund Shabazian, correct?
Yes.
Edmund Shabazian, and he finished Edmund Shabazian, a guy who was touted as the next guy to be a champion in the division or a future champion, riding on an undefeated streak. Tyriece, let's get your thoughts about the fight.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this before the show. I thought the fight was okay to maybe a little bit sloppy in certain aspects. Yeah. I thought that one of the things the UFC likes to do is, and sometimes fighters fall into this as well, where the UFC hypes up one characteristic about the fighter. Yeah. Like either he's a knockout artist and he has a one-punch knockout power, and so the fighter will look for that one punch in a fight, or in this case, where it's Derek Brunson, where the theatrics and the talking, they amplify it to where, like, in the fight, it becomes a little bit of a problem.
Every 2 seconds, he's talking. It's like, bro,
right.
we get it. Stop talking about him talking.
Right. And I feel like Kevin Holland amped it up a little bit more because that's what the UFC was amplifying. Like I don't remember past fights, even the Jaquan Buckley fight. I don't remember him being as audibly as he was in that fight. There was moments, but he wasn't consistently doing it and amplifying it.
Can I ask you, do you think that UFC for this fight specifically kind of focused in on the mic, not mic'd up, but kind of honed in on him talking during the fight? Like they kind of like made that, like whatever he would say, they were trying to get that as much as possible with like, the introduction of the 8K video streaming and things like that. I almost feel as if with the transition to that kind of platform, they kind of are now able to hear those little things. And this was the perfect fight to test that on. And they did that all fight.
Yes, I 100% agree. I think they even Bisbing or what's his partner's name?
Paul Felder. Paul Felder?
No, it wasn't Paul Felder. I think it was like Fitzgerald or something like that. Brendan Fitzgerald. I think he even says during the fight, let's try to listen in on what Kevin Holland is saying. And I think from there it stayed on Kevin Holland for majority of the whole entire fight. And then you had Michael Bisping was great on commentary where he kept making the points of, listen, I know he's a fun guy, he's a great guy, he has charismatic, he's charismatic, he has all theatrics, but you like at some point you have to win and do this. Like it's not during the fight, it's not like you have to you could do this, but you have to win. And he wasn't winning. No.
And it wasn't as if in watching the first round, when he like throws, I don't know what he was trying to throw, but he ends up slipping. Yes. I was like, oh, well, this is the beginning of the end. I was like, this fight either goes one, if we talked about this too, or we just even had, I'm pretty sure you had the same thought, that this fight goes one of two ways. Either Brunson controls and dominates him the way he does, not Khabib style, but just his regular style, controls him and hurts him and maybe get the finish, or Brunson gets a flash highlight knockout. But the lot more likely scenario here was that Brunson beats this guy, just from the experience, I think. And then in watching rounds 2 through 5, I was just like, yeah, he's not doing anything to change these positions. He's talking. What's going to change? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I don't know. Once I realized that was going to happen, I was like, yeah, Kevin Holland's not beating Derek Brunson.
You know what's interesting about that? Like, I'm glad you brought that up, but to me, the first round when Kevin Holland slips, and they're on the ground and Derek Brunson's in top position, I thought it showcased Kevin Holland's ground defense. I thought his ground defense is superb. Like a lot of the shots that Derek Brunson was trying to land, he was blocking. He was like this. He was blocking with his arms. The constant moving made Derek Brunson work to where I noticed this once like the round ended. I thought Derek Brunson was tired in that first round, and then just kept continuing on.
He was winded. I think the defense was great, but the ultimate goal, if you're a guy like Kevin Holland, right, you'd want to get up. I guess you do want to make Derek Brunson tired. You want to tire him out because he gets slop. He's someone who can get sloppy when he's looking for a finish or when he gets tired. But with a guy like that, if you really kind of lay on the ground, you're not winning rounds.
Right.
You're not, and I get the whole defense. We know how talented he is, and I'll give him a nod to the defense. I looked at that too. But at the end of the day, you want to be winning these rounds. You're going against a guy who's been a top 10 ranked UFC middleweight for well over 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's definitely been a while.
Good experience. This guy, and I'm not taking anything away from his performance. I think Kevin Holland did. He showed up. I just think that if that set the tone for the rest of the fight, because whenever he was on the floor, although he can make him work, there was no urgency. There was no reason to get up. So. It was great. You're right. He showed a lot of defense in the beginning, but when we talk about the fight like Kamaru versus Gilbert Burns, right? What was the one mistake that Gilbert Burns made in the first round? Being too anxious. Well, bigger mistake than that. That's an overall theme of the round one, right? The biggest round was he got too comfortable on the ground waiting for Kamaru to come to him.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
In the first round. And I'm not saying that Holland did that. That's not what I'm saying. But accepting that kind of like, cool, like, all right, we're just going to hang out on the ground is get back up and piece him up because you were landing. That's the other thing is that he was landing.
Right.
He was landing. He had him hurt. I was like, you know. So but you know, again, that's one round to 5, right? Like every round's not going to be the same. But I did see that if Brunson can kind of get him to stay on the ground and he's not going to get up himself, I know that Brunson's going to be able to control him for most of that time on the ground.
Yeah.
That's just the force. I don't know about you, but that's when I see a guy like that control somebody on the ground, and it's not like Brunson is Khabibing guys, but if there's no urgency, Brunson's definitely just going to keep you there. That position isn't made to work for the person on the bottom unless you're a guy like Tony Ferguson when you fought Kevin Lee, where you're throwing elbows and like he did throw elbows to his thing, but Brunson landed some very heavy shots in that first round too.
Yeah, like for me, and I get what you're saying. I thought Derek Brunson on the ground didn't really like he was landing shots, but also like when you looked at the fight, the round by round, on the ground, you're seeing that they were very similar in the strikes landed on the ground. Mm-hmm. So like it wasn't really necessarily the strikes of Derek Brunson. It was like I said, the urgency of Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland just accepted it. Where in moments like he has the triangle on
he locked the triangle on the bottom.
Yeah, like I was surprised he didn't butterfly or try to like. There was moments where it's like, okay, you like Derek Brunson is tired. Like like if your plan was to get him tired on the ground or something like that, I could believe that. Okay, fine. But in third, fourth, fifth round, with Derek Brunson, you see him just trying to gasp for air, trying to rest. Those are moments where okay, I'm gonna try to get up, or try to scramble, maybe butterfly, do something to where now on the feet he's tired. You have him where you want him now. But it seemed like the game plan was just I'm going to accept what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like I'm just gonna, and it's not like and fans, we're not saying that he went in there to lose anything. It's like he just the situation presented itself. He said, okay, this is fine. There's really no need to do anything else. Right. That's really what we're trying to get at. But the thing about it is that I thought Derek kind of not picked it up, but I thought he caught his wind back at towards the fourth. I definitely thought I agree with you. Derek tends to. The one thing about Derek is that I don't know if he's anxious or anything like that, but he's a fast, almost not a fast starter, but he kind of see that first round is like go, 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 go. And then the rest of the fight's recovery until then sometime.
He's also older. He's 37 years old too. So like there's also that mixed in there. Not saying he's in bad shape, but he's also older. And
older years fighter. He's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and again, the activity of Kevin Holland on the ground was good. It's just that even when the low spikes, when Derek Brunson is taking breaks, he didn't do anything with it. And that's where, like, again, the 4th, 5th round, Derek Brunson was able to get his win back because he was resting on Kevin Holland for most of it. And he had that energy left to go. Overall, I thought that this was a big blunder by Kevin Holland. And not to say that, the loss itself and and not just his performance, but just I think the spotlight was on Kevin Holland. And he had the ability to really make a performance, especially against Derek Brunson, where if you beat Derek Brunson, that pretty much means that you are on the level of being a title contender.
You beat Derek Brunson, that means you're like, I don't want to say, I'm not going to call him a gatekeeper because
Derek Brunson,
he's always been 2 to 3 fights away from the belt. The closest he's ever come is after beating Lyoto, and that run was one of the more exciting runs of his career because then he fought Robert Whitaker, and then that's when it was like, whoa, like that's Robert Whitaker. In my opinion, he's always been a top 7 guy in the division. But I don't know what
I was gonna say, but to your credit, we're not saying that he's a gatekeeper.
No, never.
He is the distinction of, and it's a compliment to him actually.
Yeah,
that when you fight Derek Brunson and you're able to get a win against Derek Brunson, you cross from being a other top 15 guy ranked to being, okay, now you're among the elite. Only the elite of the elite beat Derek Brunson.
That's the thing, right? And that's not saying that he's not good, but Derek Brunson's a guy who I think, in my opinion, it's circumstance as to why he hasn't fought for a belt. he's always so close, but there's just one guy.
Right.
And it's always so close, but then the situation changes, right? And that's just his career. That's, I hope he gets the fight belt one day, maybe not, who knows. But at the end of the day, Brunson is the next step, the leap in talent. He's that gap between the talent levels, as where it's like, if you can beat a guy like this, that means you're on the playing field to really going for the belt. If you can't beat Brunson, then honestly, this is not in the cards for you.
All right.
But nonetheless, Kevin Holland, he performed last night to his best. He was talking to Khabib. Ultimately, of course, like as you may know, if you've seen it or if you haven't seen it, we'll let you know now. Derek Brunson beats Kevin Holland by unanimous decision. Tyreece, is there anything else on this card you would like to speak about?
Well, before we go for this topic, I wanted to say that the only losses that Derek Brunson has is to Jacare Souza, Robert Whitaker, Israel Adesanya, Yoel Romero. That's his only losses in the UFC. So like let's we talk about not being a gatekeeper, but being among the elite. Like that's the kind of competition level that you're on.
You fought how many champions? Like how many
championship contenders?
Again, Derek Brunson is one of the best middleweights in the world right now. There's no way of saying he's not.
From Strike Force. Yeah,
but in beating a guy like that, that kind of signifies that you may be ready to challenge for the belt.
Right.
I skipped ahead. I was sorry. I don't know why I did that.
No, it's all good.
New format, trying to lock it into the head here. Where does Derek Brunson go?
Well, Derek Brunson wants Paulo Costa. And I actually like that fight because I think Paulo Costa, there's something going on there. This kind of leads to our other topic that we're going to talk about here. The fights announced. We got Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gaslim announced after Paulo Costa says that he will be unable to compete in April, or is that I think the first week of April?
I think it's like April 24th.
No, April 24th is the UFC 261 card, we'll talk about as well. I think it's like the first week of April. I think it's maybe April 7th or whatever. But nonetheless, he says April that 17th. The 17th. Okay, yeah. So he had a fever. I believe it was a fever, and he's saying that it's like he's not gonna be ready in time for that, which I thought was interesting. He didn't say COVID. It was something like a flu or a fever or something like that, where he's not gonna be ready in time. I think that's very interesting, especially when you come off I was drinking before the fight with Izzy as well.
Yeah.
So I think Kevin Holland.
I think that whole thing, that whole narrative. Derek Brunson to fight Paulo Costa.
Wait, what'd you say? I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
It looks like we're lagging.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I see. You said something about Derek Brunson.
I say Derek Brunson should fight Paulo Costa. I 100% agree with that fight.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I think it's a proven ground fight for Costa, and Derek Brunson should fight somebody in the top 5.
Of course, I think he's earned it. He's definitely been around for a minute. I think he needs to, he can put his name out there. Beating a guy like Costa definitely adds significant value to his name. That's a fight like that, and a successful finish could get him a title shot.
Right. And you need middleweight contenders.
You need middleweight contenders. As for Kevin Holland, I'd like to see him fight a guy like I'd like to see him honestly fight maybe like Brad Tavares. I was thinking about that fight for a minute. Brad Tavares was a guy who was on a decline after losing to Emmett Shabazian, but he rebounded with a win maybe a month or two ago, and I'd definitely like to see him fight a guy like that, a nice talented middleweight. Or Chirico, I think his name is Chirico, the guy who just beat Joaquin Buckley with the head kick. I'd like to see him fight a guy like him, like a well-rounded guy, so that way he can kind of build on those urgency and kind of just go for the edge. But other than that,
I believe that in the post conference, Kevin Holland made intentions to go to 170. He wants to get a nutritionist and go to 170. I think he even talked about fighting Bilal Muhammad. So that may be his next move. Is a going down in weight to fight in welterweight.
He's a pretty skinny guy. I feel like he'd want to be skinny. It's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
But that's the move he wants to make. So it'd be interesting to see where exactly Kevin Holland goes. Maybe Brad Tavares versus or Alexio Di Chirico is maybe the next fight. But at 170, maybe he does some work there.
I agree. I mean, it's not that he can't do it. I think he definitely can. He's quick. He's fast. He's strong. He's got the striking. I want to see a little bit more in terms of wrestling and clinch work from him. But if I will say this, if Kevin Holland develops a clinch game, he might be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. With those long arms.
Serious clinch game with, like, we're talking knees, hold you against the cage, elbow off the break, step in elbow type thing. He could be a problem.
I think so too.
All right.
I think so too.
For I guess anything else you want to talk about this card? It delivered in certain aspects. There was a lot of fights fell off, unfortunately, like 2, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was good matchups overall.
I thought Max Griffin had a great knockout over Son Keenan. I thought he looked really, really good.
He looked body-wise, he looked different. He seemed to come in more leaner. He looked a little different to me, and I like that. I like this, whatever's going on with Max Griffin, I like that.
Yeah. I believe like his last fight, you may remember he nearly tore a guy's ear off with his elbow.
Yeah.
He talked about how he had a torn hamstring and how he had to learn how to switch stances, and that helped him out. And then recently had a kid, I believe 2 weeks ago, and like that has also been motivating him. So like he's been kind of going on like a resurgence, or not even a resurgence, just like it may be like he's finding himself now.
Yeah,
like he's finding, like, there's certain times in fighters' careers where we've seen where they have that turning point, and where like everything starts to click, and then everything starts to be more dialed in, like a Jorge Masvidal, for example.
Yeah,
and where like things just turn, and he may be on that rise right now.
I like what I did like about his performance last night was that he would lead with these straights. He stood in the face, and it was the striking distance he held. I'm gonna just narrow it down to that. The striking distance he held was, I think, brilliant against a guy like Keenan. And that the issue is because Keenan's kind of he's a big welterweight, 1. And 2, he's not lanky, but he's got long limbs, and it seems like he likes to control the distance to kind of stalk you and then like land straights and then land jabs, stiff jabs. I thought it was great for Griffin to be in his face like that. I thought that was a very brilliant game plan, or maybe that's just, he was ready to get the fight started. I don't know, but it seemed like Max Griffin was dialed in last night, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah,
hopefully, maybe, possibly, we'll get him on here and we could speak to him and ask him exactly why he was so dialed in. Let's see. I thought Adrian Yanez, he had a great performance against Gustavo Lopez. He looked really, really good at bantamweight division. And Taito Ivasa is on a comeback run right now. Too, so.
Had a shoey last night, even though
there's no protocol on shoeys, I believe.
I don't think shoeys are being regulated at the moment, so that's something interesting to look forward to. Yeah. But that was cool. I'm glad Tuivasa got back into the win column. Great knockout too, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I was pretty impressed by that.
Overall thoughts.
Great card. I'm gonna go solid B-.
Okay, I'll go with you there.
And it's not because I didn't get what I wanted. I thought it was great fights, great matchups. I really wanted the Brad Riddell fight versus
I did too.
Gregor Gillespie. I needed that fight because that fight would let me know whether or not Brad Riddell is the next guy at lightweight, or if Gregor Gillespie's back to his like running straight through you kind of phase from when he lost to Kevin Lee. So that part was sadly missed, but overall B-. I thought great matchups overall. I'm happy to watch UFC, so I couldn't complain.
I agree. Which is again, it's a great transition there because Brad Riddell did test positive for COVID-19.
Yep.
And who was his training partner was none other than Alex Volkanovski, which affects next week or this week's card. Now we're having this out. This UFC 260 is this Saturday. Brand Ortega, Alexander Volkanovski is going to be postponed, I believe, to a date to be determined. Yeah. Maybe they get the fight going in May, which we'll talk about later on. But yeah, this was a Brian Ortega versus Alec Volkanovski was something I was looking forward to as well. So that's no longer on the card for UFC 260. Now we're going to have just one title fight, Steven Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. Winner gets John Jones, maybe. Let me ask you this. Who do you have versus Stipe and Francis Ngannou?
Bro, I go back and forth every day for this fight. I want to say the smart bet is Stipe. Because Stipe is proven to be one of the, if not, sorry, let me go back and say this. Stipe has proven to be the best heavyweight champion in UFC history. You beat a guy who was the champ. You beat a guy like Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, and amongst few to name. You beat Francis Ngannou in your first meeting after being knocked around a little bit for the first round. With a guy like that, you just wonder, where does it end with him, right? Like Stipe he's had some wars. This last fight with Daniel Cormier was a war, so we don't know how long and how he recovered from that fully. But the smart bet would be to pick Stipe. But what Francis Ngannou has proven is that you cannot not only count him out, but you can't count his power out. The way he ran through Jair Rozenstruik was absolutely scary. You don't do that to grown men. You just don't. Well, at 260, Tyreece.
Unless you're Francis Ngannou.
Unless you're Francis Ngannou, you don't do that to grown men. I'm sorry. I don't see that happening to anybody. The only time I could probably see that happening is in Pride. And we're not in Pride days anymore. That kind of wild tenacity, we don't see that. So I'm gonna go Ngannou. I'm gonna go Ngannou. And it's the first time I've ever gone against Stipe, but I'm gonna go Ngannou.
Shane Carwin was that at one point. Shane Carwin was that.
That
not on the level of Francis Ngannou. Like it's been a while since we've seen like
this kind of devastating
power. Yeah,
we know at 260 as the weight limit, we know these guys have the power to put anybody out. That's in, there's no one in that category of heavyweight who cannot probably knock someone out, right? But the way at which you knock someone out is the impressive feat for the UFC heavyweights. Mark Hunt has the phenomenal walk-off KO. We know him for that.
Yeah, Mark Hunt
has a walk-off KO. He has that scary power. Let's go back in the day. Alistair Overeem never really ended any fights with the punches, but the knees. I mean, he did, obviously, of course, but the knees. You knew if he started a clinch and a tie plum, Tyreece, that fight was over.
Yeah.
But the power at which Ngannou has transversed anything I've seen before.
Yeah, I was thinking in my mind, like even Derek Lewis. Like Derek Lewis is more like the approach is a lot different. Where like, yes, Derek Lewis has like one punch, touch of death power, but it's still not a level of Francis Ngannou where it's otherworldly. It's something that like it's once in a lifetime type of thing where he can just wing shots and it lands. Derek Lewis, sometimes his punches, he's a little bit more refined in the ways where it's more calculated in certain areas. Francis Ngannou, he can just wing things and it'll land and knock you out.
And that's not to say he's not technical, but to have the belief that if you push forward and just do this, that you're going to win, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Right. You would never in your life send your fighter as your head coach or whatever. You would never send your fighter and say, swing for the fences first round.
Right.
You would never tell your fighter that. But he went at Yair Rozenstruik like a spider monkey and was successful. You've seen Ricky Bobby.
I love the Ricky Bobby reference there.
The champ, I'm gonna come at you like a spider. He came at him like a spider monkey and just bop, 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 bop. And the thing about it is, apparently Kamaru Usman is also supposed to be in his corner for this fight.
Yeah,
I think with a mind like Kamaru, I'm not saying Kamaru is the big game changer, but Kamaru is a guy who is dialed him, if not more, than Ngannou. These guys have something in them right now that I'm telling you, they're both going to be champions. And Kamaru's already champion. So that just leaves Ngannou to get the belt. I think the Ngannou that we see the year off, which is great for his health. He's not fighting. I mean, not that he got rocked or anything like that. It's great for his fighting. It's great for his technique. Great for his working. The only way I see this hurting him is that if he's too anxious and makes a mistake right away, or makes crazy, careless mistakes. That's the only thing I could say. Other than that, I think Ngannou has this fight.
So you're saying Ngannou beats Stipe? That's your prediction?
I think Ngannou beats Stipe. I think it's his time.
You say it's his time?
I think it's his time.
Okay. I agree with you.
Yeah, I like Ngannou. To me, is one of the most. It's not that his power is the issue. Now it's the fact that he's actually putting pieces together, and that's what we're seeing. He hasn't fought in almost another year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He fought last year. He beat Curtis Blades. That was his last one.
Oh, then yeah, and that fight didn't last long.
Yeah. No, I'm wrong. His fight was Jaden Rosenstruck.
Yeah, Rosenstruck was his last fight. That's what I thought, and that was almost a year ago, or maybe let me see. I'll look it up. But
that was like in July. That was the first. I think that was the first fight back after the layoff with UFC.
That was May. That was May of last year.
Yeah, that was the first card back during COVID.
Yeah, and with a guy like I think Ngannou's a guy who's just been developing. Yeah, that's it. That's just developing, and when he wins the belt, he'll without a doubt be the scariest heavyweight.
Yeah, it's easy to mistake when Francis Ngannou's last fight has been, because every fight he's been in since the Stipe fight has pretty much ended within a minute.
Except
he hasn't gone pretty long.
Except for the Derek
Lewis one.
Lewis fight. Derek Except Lewis. For the post fight, where he kind of was like, it was kind of weird. He kind of just didn't find his bearings. I don't know if it was a shock that he had lost, or he was a little, just like.
Yes, it was.
After that was without a doubt, he found his bearing again, and
we don't talk about Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou ever.
We don't. We
will never talk about that ever again.
It's like, whoa. But Ngannou, let me just read to you. He's beaten Curtis Blades by TKO. Cain Velasquez, when Cain Velasquez was like, I'm ready to come back, I'll fight anybody, fought the top guy, one of the top five in Ngannou, loses in knockout, first round. Then he fights Junior Dos Santos, beats Dos Santos, knockout, first round. Then fights, Jair Rosenstruck, first round knockout. I mean, the amount of time this guy's spent in the octagon in comparison to his career is insignificant. Like this, I think this is it. I'm just gonna leave it there. There's not much more to say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head. And not to say Stipe Miocic is, and I feel like every time, except I think the last one we got Stipe over DC. I think we said that.
I think we both maybe. I feel like we both did. I feel like you did. I feel like you definitely leaned towards DC, but I can't confirm or deny that because I'd have to go back and watch it. I think you presented issues for why Stipe wouldn't win. No, sorry, Stipe wouldn't win the rematch. We both picked DC we picked Stipe in the third match.
Yes, no, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, we picked Stipe in the third match, but you had DC in the second.
I just think there's so much Francis Ngannou has the little subtle things that we've seen that he changed. Just the way he weighs in now, his physique. He's a lot more. He's not as muscular as he was before. Like he has slimmed down a little bit as well, which I think is going to help his cardio. He's apparently working on his grappling with Kamaru Usman. I think his striking is a lot better. He's been working with people like Mike Tyson and taking points from him. Why am I forgetting his name now? Boxing Mind. I can't. Not Freddie Roach. He has a show. He's been covering a lot of MMA now.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He also with Mike Tyson.
Yes.
I know who you're talking about. Hold on.
It's on the tip of my tongue too. But yeah, like he's been training and Teddy Atlas. Boom. Yes, okay. Teddy Atlas. He's learned, like he's picking all these people, these minds apart. Ryan Garcia, he's even seen him with as well. So maybe he's taking something from that. Like I just think that he, like people are now going to him and he's learning. And remember, he came in pretty young in the sport. So like now he's kind of absorbing information. I think now you're gonna get a more redefined Francis Ngannou. Is it gonna be enough to beat Stipe? We'll see. But as of right now, I will lean towards I think he can. And I think in the first fight, Stipe got rocked a couple of times, but was able to keep going.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've seen the long-term effects of those strikes when we went to the DC fight, the first one, which is a callback what you said before, where DC was able to knock out Stipe. I think if the Francis Ngannou fight didn't happen, it would have been a lot differently.
Yeah, that first fight would have been different.
But I still think even from the Francis Ngannou fight, you can see the long-term effects of where Stipe had to take some time off to really recover. I think a better striker, a better physique, a better mind. I think Francis Ngannou can get it done.
I think he's going to be at a point in his career where he's finally putting it all together.
Yes.
And let's remember, Francis Ngannou is a guy that no one really wants to fight. He's 34 years old. He's 34 years old. He's got good amount of experience. He's like 15-3 now. I think this is the time. And if it's not the time, he can still be champion further down the line. But this is it. I think he becomes champion. I think we get John Jones versus Ngannou sometime this fall or late this summer. Which is going to be.
You wouldn't do the rematch,
huh?
You wouldn't do it. So if Stipe loses here, right? Is Jones the next fight, or you do the trilogy?
If Stipe wins, it's Jones. Now that you say that, you're right. If Stipe wins, it's Jones. Ngannou wins. It depends on how he wins. If Ngannou wins in unanimous decision, which I highly think he won't, then run it. If he wins a unanimous decision, run it back. If he wins a knockout and it's devastatingly bad, I say please give Stipe some time off. Slide Jones in there. The winner, give Stipe maybe the next title shot back up, or run it back for a trilogy. The thing about trilogies is trilogies are hard, and it's hard on the fighter. Sometimes it's hard to sell depending on how the person was beat. So, and then remember, we're in this time of COVID, so it's like, will people be able to fight when people want to? That's the other thing. Right. So it really comes down to timing. So that's why I say the winner, just give him John Jones. Just give him John Jones regardless.
Okay. I agree. Other fights on there is Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. So there's other fights to look out for. But that Stipe and Francis Ngannou one is the one with the biggest implications because it sets up the future of the UFC for 2021. Let's move to the next topic, shall we? UFC 261 was announced this Thursday, I believe, Thursday night, and it will be held at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, which, again, callback. Who was Francis Ngannou's last fight was in the arena against Jazier Rosenstruck, where he knocked him out in Jacksonville, Florida, and it will have full attendance, so it will be full capacity. It can hold up to 15,000 fans, and not only that, the UFC also announced Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal 2. Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas for the strawweight title, and then Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade for the flyweight title. Sir, what is your reaction to not only the UFC having fans back, but the announcement of these 3 fights?
I'm just going to start with 3 fights first. I feel like the fans is the bigger conversation, in my opinion. Starting with these 3 fights are going to be, without a doubt, this is the first time we've had a double headliner of 2 women's title fights. I've never seen this before. If you think about it. This is making history. One, it's a big international fighter like with Weili Zhang, and then you also have Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, you have 2 of the most dominant fighters, not women fighters, just fighters in general, fighting on this card. Then you have Kamaru versus Masvidal, which is running it back after the first 6-day fight notice for Masvidal. I mean, the electricity on this card is high. This is a card that UFC wants to deliver in terms of ratings. This is clear. It's obviously clear. You have 2 well international known fighters, one being Weili Zhang from China, and then 2 Valentina Shevchenko, getting that European vibe there. And then you have the US you have this whole situation with Masvidal, who was at the time an active Trump supporter, and then he came following and beating a lot of good fighters like Darren Till. But he fought backstage with Leon Edwards, and then knocked out what's his name? You know who I'm talking about, Ben Askren, right? So you have that fight, and then you have Kamaru, who just came off fighting his teammate in one of the most nail-biting fights because Kamaru was, getting tagged up in the first round and got dropped. Like, this is going to be a great card. This is going to be a great card. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the other two than the main event itself. I think you're right. It may be historic. I don't remember thinking of two women's title fights on the same card. That being said, again, me and you both talked about how we didn't really like the Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman 2 talks to begin with. So like this one to me, I think it's for the fans. It's for the fans who want to see Jorge Masvidal, fan favorite. I think initially the UFC wanted to do Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier in May,
but that fight never portion.
Right. I think they kind of just settled on the Jorge Masvidal and help me out here, or Kamaru Usman for April. To kind of beef up the card and try to put a little bit more spice to it. I don't think Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal was going to happen in April. I thought it was going to be in the summer or fall.
And this is why I'm okay with it. This is why I'm okay with the rematch, because it's happening so soon. If this was something that was drawn out, it makes the welterweight division. We talked about this, the stagnancy in the welterweight division, because when it comes to matchups with who should fight, Kamaru's beaten at almost everybody except for Stephen Thompson and a few people towards the lower end of the 10, of the top 10 and 15, right? Right. Well, the upper part of this, not like the one, but like closer towards the 15 and 10. But at the end of the day, what you'll see is that if this fight had prolonged or got put into the summer, then the issue would have been that you had all these welterweights who don't want to fight because they're like, well, if the title fight's happening, I want next. I'm not fighting until I get a title shot. The issue is now everyone's waiting for a title shot, and the title fight is not happening until the summer. So you have all this stagnancy in terms of time for people to fight. You don't want that. I'm glad this fight's happening now. It's one, silences the belief that Jorge Masvidal, on 6 days notice has more to offer, and two, it also provides a chance for Masvidal to get his name back out there as the best middle welterweight right now. So, I mean, it's a win-win for UFC. I'm glad the fight's happening now as opposed to having it as a long, drawn-out thing for tough and then leading into a fight.
No, yeah, that's the positive of it, right? Is that you finally get to have this fight. I think Kamaru Usman beats Jorge Masvidal again. Just saying it now. Correction. So this is happening in April. May is going to be what we're going to talk about next. Is the UFC 262 card where the lightweight title is defended. I think they were planning on doing this fight with Tough to begin with, and I think once they said, okay, we got fans in Florida, we're gonna go with that.
Get the fans and bring the money in. That was the done.
Right. Which is fine. We'll talk about the UFC 262 card in a second. Yeah, I think the fight that I'm more excited about is the Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas fight. That's the fight to me is the main event. And I think honestly you could have had. I'm glad the Kamaru Usman fight is happening. But you could have just had the main event of the two women's fight on the card.
And that still sold, in my opinion. Yeah,
it still would have sold 15,000 there. I am interested to see how that fight plays out because I think Rose Namajunas, I thought her Jessica Andrade fight, she looked good. I don't know if she's Weili Zhang. I don't know if she's ready for Weili Zhang, but we'll see.
That's the thing about that camp. Trevor Whitman is an excellent coach, and but again, at the end of the day, it's the fighters got to come in and they got to make those necessary things. And so I'm interested to see. I won't count Rose out, but I don't know if Weili loses. I don't think so
either. And maybe this sets up a super fight with all four women being on the card, where either Weili Zhang or Rose Namajunas may go up and wait to fight for the flyweight title.
Yeah.
So A lot of good. I think also the Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall fight is on the same card, so they're really building that card up.
Yeah, they're looking to stack the deck right now.
Yeah. Other fights announced recently were, like we said, announced as well this Saturday or Friday, I believe it was, where UFC 260 Friday, right? UFC 262 will have the lightweight title actually on the line now. Khabib has officially retired. There's no more doubt. There's no more question whether he's coming back. You're gonna have Michael Chandler, number 4 ranked, versus Charles Oliveira, number 3 ranked for the lightweight title in Houston, Texas. I think that spot was for Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, but
I think Aaron Hawani reported that fight fell apart because of just timing and just money and issues and stuff like that. So we may get that fight in July. We also know that Dustin Poirier didn't want to fight for the title. He wants to fight Conor McGregor or Nate Diaz. So that's why this fight is happening to begin with. A lot of people were speculating why Dustin Poirier not involved. Well, that's why. Yes. Sir, what do you think about that fight itself?
In my opinion, Dustin Poirier is the number one. I think he's the number one fighter in that division. And it's impossible for him not to be at this moment, right? With Khabib gone, because he beat Conor, and Conor was ranked number 6 or 5 at the moment. Bottom line is Poirier, in my opinion, should have the belt. But if the guy who doesn't want the belt, if the guy who's supposed to have the belt doesn't want the belt, there's nothing I can do about it. There's not a damn thing we can do to convince him to say, hey, you need the belt. He's had the belt already. Let me get this straight. Sorry. He's had the
interim.
He had the interim belt, which is the belt. This is beating a guy, it's beating everybody until you fight the champion, then you unify the belts. I'm winning the belt, and to me, at least, I don't know how other fans feel about it, is winning the belt is winning the belt. That's it. Not the BMF belt, but winning a belt, interim belt, is you're a champion, right?
Carlos Condon is a champion.
Carlos Condon, in my opinion, has always been a champion, but we've talked about that. Poirier to me is the guy who's the number one at the lightweight spot right now. There's not a guy I think who can beat him. I'm definitely interested to see how this Charles Oliveira versus Chandler fight plays out. But in my opinion, the champ should be Poirier. But again, if he's the number one guy, he doesn't care for the belt, he'd rather fight Conor for the money, because that's guaranteed payday. That's guaranteed payday to fight a guy like Conor. Regardless of how you think of him now, you say he's washed up, whatever. Conor brings money. People want to see Conor, whether win or lose, doesn't matter. I will say though that if that fight with Conor doesn't come to fruition, Poirier should fight next for the belt. He should fight the winner of this fight. He needs to fight. If that Conor fight can't be made by the time they're fighting for the lightweight belt, like actually in May, then the winner gets Poirier. That's it. I'd get off the Conor, get off that Conor fight. We don't need it anymore. Become champion, get the press, get the money, then dip right into the sunset. You pay, like he said, paid in full. That's it.
I think my prediction, I think Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier happens in International Fight Week.
For sure.
And if they can do it in Vegas, they'll do it in Dallas. And that's the wait. That's where you have all the fans there for Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier in July, in International Fight Week, where you have the Hall of Fame, when you have everything that whole entire week leading up to the Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier fight. That's just my prediction on things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira fight is a good lightweight championship fight. I think that's the next era of the division.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Justin Gaethje had Michael Chandler pinned for a fight, and then it moved to Charles Oliveira. That is the interesting part. You could make an argument that maybe Justin Gaethje should fight Charles Oliveira first instead of Michael Chandler, just because Michael Chandler's coming off of knocking out Dustin Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
Maybe he should fight one or two more times, which is what Dustin Poirier alluded to before he fights for a title. But here we are. Yeah. So I mean, everybody, you can make an argument. Justin Gaethje kind of got lost in the wind here. There's nobody to fight because Tony Ferguson's fighting Beneil Dariush. So that fight.
I wouldn't want to see that. I would not want to see the Gaethje versus Tony rematch. I wouldn't care for that. But I will say, if we're looking for fights for Gaethje, I would love, since everyone in the top 5 is lined up. I mean, Rafael dos Anjos is looking to get back in. Dos Anjos is looking to get back in. Islam Makhachev. Those I wouldn't say those are step down for him, but it's Gaethje is a top name, so
He needs to be active.
He needs to be active. But I wonder if UFC didn't give him the fights he wanted, or if he's declining fights. Because for me, I've never seen Gaethje decline fights. So
No,
I wonder if UFC. I just don't think UFC sees him as in that picture anymore, or like they kind of put him on the back burner and see they want to see how these fighters do before they put Gaethje in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see Charles Oliveira getting number one contender fight. I think Justin Gaethje should have been given the spot. Yeah. If I'm being honest with you, because he is number 2, and Rafael dos Anjos like he's going to fight Islam Makhachev. Beneil Dariush is fighting Tony Ferguson, so that's out. So Justin Gaethje pretty much has to wait a little bit to see his next fight. Maybe a Paul Felder fight, but then that's also a step down because Paul Felder lost his last fight.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to consider now that Gaethje's left out of that title contention.
Yeah, picture. And Michael Chandler could have been the one to fight these other guys to
before you threw him in there.
Yeah, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Other fights announced was Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gaslin, which we said before. TJ Dillashaw is back. Your guy. He's fighting Corey Sandhagen next month.
Blue's my boy, Blue.
Cody Garbrandt is fighting Rob Font. We have Davidson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 2 happening in June. Out of all the fights announced, Elijah, between UFC 261, UFC 262, the fights in April, the fight in June, what fight for you are you more excited for?
Well, all the title fights. That's number one. The title fights. If we're taking title fights out of the equation, my most interesting fight is Cody Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. And I have TJ on Instagram. He looks like he's in phenomenal shape. He looks like he's getting back into things. And Cody's finally gotten to a point where he's like, I'm not being nice to these guys. I'm finishing them. So I'm interested to see how that fight goes. If TJ Dillashaw, unfortunately, after he got popped for EPO, and that's obviously to his own doing, he shouldn't have done it. But if TJ Dillashaw takes 2 years off his career to come back and finish technically one of the number 1, number 2 guys. Let me see. Cody Sandhagen is
number 2.
If he comes back to finish Cody Sandhagen after a 2-year hiatus, Dillashaw is back. Do you understand?
You're gonna cape for I love how I want fans to realize when you said unfortunately pop for EPO.
He cheated.
Fans, listen to the dialogue of Elijah and listen to him talk about other fighters, and you see where the biases start to form. It's gonna be interesting. That fight is interesting to me. I'm surprised you said the Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal fight. You're looking forward to.
Of course. Let me tell you why. Because I am so invested in Kamaru being a dominant welterweight champion to the point where I need people to know. Like, I wasn't originally a person who was like Kamaru's going to be the best, but I was always like, remember he comes after every fight. I'm a problem. He's good.
Yes.
Me as a fan for him was the Sergio Moraes fight. When he knocked him out with a straight, I didn't think he could do that. I didn't think he could do that. I didn't think he had the power. I didn't think he had the timing, whatever. I didn't think he had it. Then he fights Tyron Woodley, and I see him do what he did to Tyron Woodley.
Right.
I was like, all right, this guy might not be beatable. Then he did what he did to Colby, and I was like, all right, this guy's a problem because Colby is without a doubt one of the best welterweights I've seen in a while. Okay. He puts in boxing, wrestling, cardio, all of it, and then to happen with Gilbert just recently. I don't see Kamaru losing, and I want the reason why I'm excited because I want Kamaru to cement his legacy as the greatest welterweight of all time.
So you're not excited about the fight. You're excited about Kamaru Usman.
I'm excited about the results of the fight, which include the fight. No matter how you put it.
Okay, no. I'm pulling this on fire for that one. I asked you, Elijah, are you excited about the fight? I didn't ask you about Kamaru Usman.
And I'm telling you, I'm excited for the fight. And then I explained why. It's because I'm looking forward to the after benefits of what happens as a result of the fight.
So
that you're not fight happening because I'm excited to see what Kamaru is going to do again. Listen to me. Stop trying to find cracks, Tyreece.
No. It's not a crack. But it definitely is. Like, you didn't say anything about Jorge Masvidal and why this is a good fight. You just said, I'm excited to see what Kamaru Usman do and him.
I don't necessarily need to explain that I'm excited because of Masvidal. I don't need to explain. I don't have to explain that part.
The second half of the fight.
Wait. You're telling me
it takes two to fight, Elijah.
Listen to what you're saying. You're saying for me to be excited about a fight, I have to mention both fighters in the capacity of which I attest to both their strength and attributes. I don't have to do that. I don't have to. I'm excited for the matchup 1. I'm excited for the rematch 2. I've told you that because I want Kamaru to win again. I think he's that good. I'm excited for Kamaru. As a fan, you're telling me I can't be a fan, and being a fan of a fighter can't let me get excited for a fight? Because that's literally what you do. That's exactly what you do. We can talk about matchups. We've talked about this already. We've talked about this at the beginning of last show. We talked about the matchup on this show. It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about the matchups anymore, about the fight. I'm excited for the fight because I'm a fan of Kamaru Usman. That's it. I don't need to explain anymore. We've talked about the matchup. We've talked about the way we thought it would go. There's no more for me. I've given that narrative already. Get over it.
I mean, you're being all mad and upset and hot and bothered.
No,
I'm literally asking you, sir.
And I'm telling you,
what exactly this fight are you excited about? And you, hold on, I'll let you talk. I'll let you get stuff on.
Please talk. Please.
I said, what about this fight are you excited about? Your response was yes, Kamaru, the person Kamaru. You want to see his results. You did not say, hey, I'm excited about this fight because such and such, because this thing and this thing. I did not you're pretty much having foregone conclusion Kamaru Usman will win this fight. So you're not interested in the fight itself. You're interested to see what Kamaru Usman does in the result.
I'm interested to see the real matchup. Wait, we've talked about this already. We've talked about this consistently. We talked about we want to see what Masvidal does with actually a full fighting camp. I've already explained this narrative.
We talk about shit on this show.
Sir. Whoa, sir. We talked about this literally. We talked about this in person, and we've talked about this before on the podcast. So I think you need to go back.
No, not on the show.
Wait. On this show in general, not this episode, but on this show, sir. Don't try to play the card now. Now we're trying to play the little game. Let me say this. Like I said, I'm excited for the fight. I'm excited for Kamaru. I'm excited for the situation, and I'm excited for the results of the fight. Bottom line, you're not going to be able to take that away from me. I know you want to nitpick and seem as if you got, it, but I'm excited for that fight.
I think you're full of shit, but that's just me.
And Tyriece, look, your thoughts? Don't care. But go ahead.
I don't know unless you're a diehard Jorge Masvidal fan. I don't know anybody that is excited to see Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman too. Actually, to the contrary, a lot of people that I've seen are like, why is this fight happening? And Kamaru Usman's going to dominate a 50-45 decision again.
I don't disagree with that narrative. I don't.
So how is that
I'm not everybody. I can't like you're saying everybody. There's no way every single person is going to be like, oh, I don't know why this fight's happening. There's people who want to know what happens when Masvidal has a full camp. That's it. Regardless of what people think will happen, the fight has to happen and the fight will play out whichever way it does. Still going to be an exciting fight. You're still going to watch, so it doesn't matter.
Well, there's two other fights on that card that I really want to see more.
And you can be excited for this. I'm excited for all three of those fights. It does not matter to me. I'm sorry. It looks like you want to take my joy away, Tyriece. You seem almost like a Debbie Downer at this moment. You say everybody.
You know why? I know the real you.
I let you talk. It's that bullshit. That's that bullshit. I'll let you talk. Let me go, brother. Let me go. Yeah, sip your tea because you know what? You're sipping that fucking bum juice right now. You're sipping hate juice and I don't like you. Listen, now I don't drink coffee, but I hope it wakes your little ass up. I will say this: that fight is still going to be good. It's going to be exciting, regardless of what you say or not. And I can't wait to the after show to say and talk about, hey, like the results. I know there's a lot of people saying the fight should have happened. There's a lot of people excited to see what happens when Masvidal has a full camp. Bottom line, what fights are you most interested in? Because we spent so much time with you trying to nitpick and try to be, oh, everyone hates this, and Tyriece knows what everyone hates because you're a Twitter guy now. So there's that. What fight are you interested in?
You're so full of shit.
You don't even hear yourself.
The fight I'm interested in all seriousness, Rob Whitaker versus Kevin Gaslin is something I'm really interested in. Rob Whitaker, he's coming on a comeback run right now to try to get that Israel Adesanya rematch, which I think that fight plays a lot differently. Just where Rob Whitaker is at, seems like he's a lot better physically and mentally. I think at one point he was guilty of rumors that he was going to retire or going to be going away from the sport for a while.
I feel like that was the narrative that everyone said. I think he just said he's going to take some time off because he's burnt out.
Yeah. So and I thought he looked good against Jared Cannonier. I thought he looked good against Darren Till. So like that we talked about how maybe the wear and tear is on Rob Whitaker for a while and how he may be on decline, and he proved us wrong, and he showed that he's still in that top level.
I don't think we've ever said that. I think the narrative in the media was that like after he got beat by Izzy, it's like, oh, like, well, like he's like declining. I think when you fight killers back, first off, I don't know anyone who's fought Yoel Romero twice.
No.
There's no one in the history of MMA who's probably fought Yoel Romero twice.
With injuries.
Come on now. That's too hard. And the second fight was even worse. And then to have, it just like, I think the circumstances for that moment for Rob were bad too, because then he had a fight with Kevin Gaslin at a certain time and he had to get emergency surgery, right? So I think just the circumstances, the wear and tear, being in those two wars, and then the stress of being a champion kind of played a factor in him. The time off was, I think, the best thing he could have done.
Guys, a question: can you hear a TV in the background?
A little bit, but that's because now I'm paying attention to it.
Okay.
Before, when you were talking, I couldn't hear it.
Okay. All right. Just wondering. It's there though. We'll just wrap this up. Yeah, I thought the Rob Whitaker, Kevin Gaslim also for me, he's number 8 in the world. We kind of wondered if he's gonna really do well in this middleweight division now that we got a lot of people that are a lot bigger, a lot more. He's not fighting a Vitor Belfort or a Michael Bisping. He's fighting guys in their prime that are going for a title. If he beats Robert Whitaker at number 1, he shoots right back up to being a title contender and rematching Israel Adesanya. The only person that really gave Israel Adesanya some problems so far in his career. And I think Kevin Gaslin has the tools to get it done against Robert Whitaker.
For sure. I think they both did well.
Yeah, and they're both like that's a perfect fight for both of them because they're both former welterweights. Both are not the biggest guys in the division, so it works out well for both guys. And I can see either guy winning the fight, which again has major implications for Israel Adesanya, who is without a challenger at this time. Another fight for me, just the Jessica Andrade and Shevchenko fight. That's another one where it's like, I don't know who can be thrown relative to Shevchenko. Jessica Andrade present a great challenge to that because Jessica Andrade has the power.
That's the power is the determinant in this fight.
Yeah.
Valentina, but
I still say Valentina Shevchenko may wins, but there are some problems where it's like, okay, if you have somebody that will just walk you down, that's going to be there. Can Shevchenko keep up that pace? Can she work on the outside and pick Jessica Andrade apart?
Yes.
Or will Jessica Andrade find a way to get on the inside and make it a dogfight to where Shevchenko? I don't think Shevchenko's been in that for a while or ever in her career.
The thing about Shevchenko is that she's the greatest when she's able to strike with distance.
Right.
She's not big, but she knows how to use striking distance well. She can cover distance. She can get in and out. She clinches pretty good. She's strong. She's definitely used a lot more wrestling than people give her credit for. That's another thing in terms of inside trips, takedown, things like that, lateral throws. The thing about this fight is that, one, the power of Andrade is something that is going to be a little bit different because Andrade is not cutting weight anymore. Or if she's cutting weight, it's very minimal. It's very minimal to a degree. So she'll probably be in full health for this fight. 2, when she's countering, Jessica Andrade will take shots to give. And that's the biggest thing, is how do you take shots from round 1 through 5 with someone who has that kind of power? So it's hard. She'll be tested, but I don't see this any different from what she's been through, where she's like the matador leading the bull. I really don't see this as much different. The only question is, how does she get inside and lock her up into the cage and things like that? Those little things, those little details in terms of a game plan can change the fight. But overall, I mean, it should be a good fight.
Yeah, mentioned Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. That's an interesting one as well. I hope if you're a Cody Garbrandt fan, he does not get roped into wanting to trade shots with Rob Font. That is what you don't want to do.
Rob Font recently had a knockout victory over Marlon Moraes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He looked good. I wonder which Rob Font shows up. Because if this is the Rob Font that's currently right now where he has what's it called? He has a finish and then two unanimous decisions. Like he's beaten Ricky Simone, Sergio Pettis before he left. He's beaten guys who are technically smaller than him. Technically smaller, but he's just outpaced him, outpowered him, things like that. I wonder with a guy with both knockout artists, what really happens. I wonder if Rob Font will get knocked out or if Cody Garbrandt will get knocked out. And Cody Garbrandt's coming off of all those COVID complications.
Yeah. Yes.
That's
great point, Elijah. Great point.
I mean, of anybody to get COVID in the UFC aside from Hamzat, he's had it the worst. And we talked about this, I think we talked about this maybe within the last two shows, was that Cody Garbrandt has had some serious issues.
Yeah. That's a great point, Elijah. I didn't even think about the fact that the COVID and him, basically, he said on Joe Rogan podcast as well that he had serious problems. So hopefully he's going to be all right. Hopefully he'll be okay. That's a big issue. That's a very big issue.
Hopefully he's had enough time to recover, but you just never know. You just don't.
Yeah. So overall, I think we're in a good space right now for the UFC. They're starting off hot with a lot of these fights. I think we're having two cards so far with 3 title fights defended.
And
that's all of it is high level opponents, and even the main events for the next couple of fight nights are really, really, really good and interesting. So, hats off to the UFC.
For sure.
Anything else you want to say, Elijah, regarding the UFC news or anything of that nature?
No, I think we covered it. Still excited for Kamal versus Masvidal too. So gonna put that in there. Overall, I think UFC is starting off. I guess this will be almost quarter 2.
I think May would be quarter 2.
May would be quarter 2 because a quarter is 3 months.
No. So April will be the end of quarter 1, and then quarter 2 would be May, June, July, and then I think that's how it goes. Or maybe we already passed quarter 1.
I think we passed quarter 1 because quarters, if it's divided into 12 divided into 4 is 3. So the 3 months, the first quarter. So we're ending.
We're at the end of quarter 1,
and quarter one was pretty good.
Yeah,
quarter 1 was pretty good. So I think the next few months are going to be. We're going to see some really good. Like they're revamping everything. Then we're going to see some really good fights put together.
And to add to that, the UFC I think has learned that you're going to have to stack up these cards if you're going to raise the price to $80. I think that's what we're seeing is that you're seeing multiple fights on cards, on title fights on cards, and matchups because the UFC has to stack up for certain, especially in quarters, like you're saying, which is a great point. First quarter, we're seeing Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, and then you had Kamaru Usman versus
Gilbert Burns.
Which didn't do well. And then you had Adesanya, that three fight card, title fight card. Yes.
Yeah, you have to justify charging the amount. Like I think you brought this up at the beginning of it, but you have to justify charging the amount of money that you are.
Right. And you end with that. Plus, you have Stipe versus Ngannou, which you wanted to have two title fights on the card with Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. Yeah. Maybe you move that fight to June, where you have Brandon Moreno and Brandon Moreno and Davis Figueiredo. You add Brian Ortega and Volkanovski to that card to beef it up. And again, you have possibly the big lightweight title fight there, and then you have two title fights in June. So it works out.
It does. It does. Sorry, that was weird. It does. I think I'm excited again. We're back on board. And then there's fans coming back now, so you can only imagine what UFC is really like. The big picture is to get that big money like before, pre-COVID.
Yeah, we'll save our thoughts on just fan coming back till when what actual happens. So
yeah,
I have some judgment on it, but we'll see. Maybe they prove me wrong.
Most of the world does.
Yeah. So, overall, I'm liking where we're going. I like where we're going with the UFC. Guys, again, please share, subscribe, give us a like as well. Join the Discord, which is going to be in the description. We'll also have a link to the SoundCloud as well, so you can listen to it audio as well. Yep. And yeah, man, like again, we're going to be UFC 260 this weekend. Perfect time to be on the Discord, so we can actually give you a talk breakdown of the fights and actually communicate with you guys. So definitely join. Signing off. I'm here with Elijah, the capping bullshitter that loves Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman. I'm Tyriece Simon. Yeah.
And I'm here with Tyriece, who thinks he's above all in terms of every choice made in terms of MMA, and he knows everything. And his word is the absolute best. Signing off, Elijah Jones.
Sometimes people say that. Sometimes people say it too.
And also, I just need you to do one thing. Take your head out of your ass for 2 seconds. Just 2 seconons.
You said TJ Dillashaw unfortunately tested positive EPO. That's all I gotta say.
Unfortunately, he did, because you want to believe in fighters. I'll say this: you want to believe in fighters or the fighters you're watching are doing the right things. Because at the end of the day, these are athletes and these are people you look up to. These are people you watch, you invest time in. So it's unfortunate as a fan that I see that the champion did that, because now it takes away value in terms of his career and things like that. So now I start to question whether he's won based on EPO or not. It's a lot of things that go into that. If you would give me a chance to explain, Tyriece, instead of spitting this like, oh, I'm so much higher because I didn't say anything. Whoa. I'm so much higher. I say things and I listen and I poke holes, even though, you know the thing is, you know what I'm going to do to your black ass? I'm going to start poking holes in the shit you say. That's the problem. I let you go. And that's the issue. So what I'm going to start doing now, fam, I'm going to start poking holes in shit he says. I let him go. I let him rock. And I'll talk to him after. I'm like, hey, I don't think you should have said that. Or like, hey, like, I disagree with that. But you know what? He's beefing up ratings. And I like that. Let's do it. Anywho, this was fun. Huh?
Cap Jones.
Yeah, you win. Sir, you wear hats more than I do. I can't even wear hats. Look at this. I can't even wear hats. Anywho, this has been a pretty fun show.
Love you, man. Love you.
Good, bro.
Signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Fans, have a beautiful Sunday. Tyriece, you do as well, okay? Elijah Jones.
Have a nice day, guys.